But like Davy Fitz did umpire over the weekend. Now, this is a game between Aine Kilnamona and they were up against Whitegate. So your club manager, Brendan Bugler, plays for them, of course. I don't believe you've had a chance to chat with him since. But the fact that Davy Fitz is doing linesman in a game, umpire in a game where he's part of that championship with Sixmilebridge, they're chasing 3 in a row. Kevin Curry he's the referee there, and I just don't think it's right. So Kevin Curry is from Sixmilebridge. Obviously, he's a clubman, just like Davy Fitz, and he would have asked him to do plenty of games before. Maybe they're buddies. That's all fine. No problem at all there. But when you're in the same championship and you could end up coming up against one of these two teams, or a decision you make, and let's just, totally innocently, let's say you make a bad call as an umpire. It happens all the time. You might end up knocking out a team that you were going to be playing, or, make a red card call that might massively influence the championship. I'm not saying Davy would do any of that, but I don't think a manager should be in a situation where that could happen. I think I don't agree with that at all. I think if you ask him and if you ask the manager, they'll say, the referee, they'll say, well, look, I couldn't get anyone to do it. And that's fine. And Davy might say, well, look, I was just trying to help out the situation. They were caught. And that is great. But I'm saying that there should be protocols in there or rules in there that a manager can't. I just think there's too much can go wrong. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely not an ideal scenario, but I've been down in our own club and I've been at other places. Like we started a group game this year, a championship game without linesmen, a championship match in O'Connor Park. There were no linesmen available. So I don't know the exact context of it, but it is very hard to get people to do these jobs anymore. Very hard to get umpires, very hard to get linesmen. And I was doing linesman for an under-13 county final in St. Brendan's Park yesterday, and Kilcormac won, and they won well. But and there was no real flash points. But I still wouldn't exactly be jumping up and down to do the role based on what's shouted in you at you, and you're never right. It's not an ideal scenario, but I'd say it needs I wouldn't say I'm going to give Davy the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say I wouldn't say he put his hand up to do the job so that he could get a look at potentially a team that they might play. I give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he was helping out a clubman who was probably in bother, who probably sent out an 11th hour text to get an umpire for a match because somebody might have let him down. They usually have a team of 4. Invariably, there's 1 or 2 not available at different times, so somebody else steps in. It's funny, Shane, you should say that. I ended up having to umpire a Division 1 league final in Offaly. I think it was between Shinrone and Coolderry a couple of years ago. I definitely don't like umpiring. Whatever about doing linesman, I definitely don't like doing umpire. And we ended up playing, I think, both Shinrone and Coolderry in the championship later on. It could have been actually Shinrone and Rhinus it was. And if someone had hit someone or something like that, I would have had to put up the hand and say whatever. And that's far from an ideal scenario. Maybe it's a bit convoluted in the sense that I could use that to my advantage if I was that way inclined. But I think with a lot of these things, needs do must at certain times. I was just our chairman came down that day and said, we're stuck for an umpire. Would you go in and do it? I was like, it's the last thing I want to do, but I'm not gonna go down to St. Brendan's Park and have one umpire doing a marquee match. So I will help out no more than I helped out yesterday. So I'm going to give David the benefit of the doubt and say that that's the scenario that did arise in Clare. But it's far from perfect. All right.
Oh yeah, but look, I'm not in any way giving out about Davy Fitz here, but I'm just saying this situation should not be allowed to arise. You always have situations where referees are struggling to get people to do the line and to do umpire, and that is a bit of a disastrous situation. And we know that there's a falling amount of referees. Even in, I think Fergal Horgan was talking about Tipperary the last few years. It's gone down from having something like 120 referees down to about 80. And we've heard of situations in both Wexford and Tipperary of games having to be called off because there were fewer referees. And how will that affect championships in the coming years in terms of do we need to play fewer games in a championship? Have groups where you've only 2 games rather than 3 because we've no one to referee the games. That will be a big problem there. And Traumspieler says here, Davy is a GA man. He should be commended for taking the time to do the thankless job of being umpire. Linesmen have not showed up for the Clare County Championship games this year, so fair play to Davy. So as I said, I'm not slating him at all, because people can very quickly go off on a solo run, but it is an issue.
Yeah, the only thing I would say on that is, but possibly Davy should have maybe realised the potential fallout of that. But you're volunteering to do a job that's totally thankless, and maybe you shouldn't be getting abuse for it. But you could see how you would, given his stature and the fact that he has a really, really vested interest in the Clare Senior Hurling Championship. But the big caveat I will give is it's impossible to get people to do these things now. It's so tough. And funnily enough, Davy was umpiring a game where Brendan Bugler, as you said, my club manager, was playing in. Yesterday, we played Sixmilebridge in a practice match, and the two of them are standing on the sideline against each other again. So, like, it was an interesting weekend all told, I'd say.
And Bugler was also part of his selection or his management ticket with Wexford a couple of years ago also. Conor Heaney saying, what protocols could be put in place to prevent it though? Well, if you're officially part of a team's group that you can't referee in that championship. I mean, I think it would be fine that if you were officiating in a club football championship, maybe something like that. If you were a management team with, let's say you're the management or you're part of the Burr team and you don't play football, maybe it's okay that you would be involved in the football championship. I know, I'm just throwing that out there on the top of the...
Yeah, no, I know. It's just, there probably is, that sort of a protocol would be an easy enough one to put in place. As I said, the only thing is must probably at certain times, and you just need someone to fill the gap.
If you enjoyed this piece of content, please follow us on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, which helps the channel grow. And if you want audio podcasts, go to patreon.com/ourgame.